How many times have you felt that time is running faster than it should, that your energy is disappearing without explanation, or that reality seems to be going in a direction contrary to your intentions? It's curious how, even with so much knowledge available, few realize that there are silent patterns shaping our experience. But learning to recognize them can change everything. Life, even when it seems chaotic, follows simple and deep principles. Principles that were not created by humans, but are embedded in the very structure of nature, the body, the mind, and the spirit. When you understand these principles, what once felt out of reach starts to fall into place, not because the world has changed, but because your way of moving through it changes first. There are four core principles that not only explain the flow of existence, but show how it's possible to influence time, energy, and even reality itself, consciously. It's not about magical formulas. It's about remembering something you already knew on a deeper level. And maybe all that was missing was someone to show you the way back to that wisdom. There's something curious about the number 4. It shows up quietly, but consistently, in many areas of reality. 4 seasons in a year, 4 directions in space, 4 major phases of life. It's not just a pattern, it's a code, a kind of signature revealing a deeper order behind what seems random. That order isn't limited to the outside world. It also reflects within us, in our internal processes, in our growth cycles, in the changes we face. Everything seems to move in phases, in stages, and the number 4 shows up as a point of balance that supports those transitions. When we understand this, we begin to notice a new kind of intelligence quietly at work. Many ancient cultures knew this. The medicine wheel, for example, used by indigenous peoples of North America, organized life into 4 directions, 4 elements, 4 aspects of the self. It wasn't just symbolic, it was practical. They understood that living well wasn't about dominating the world, but about aligning with the flow of nature itself. Think about your daily life. How often have you felt disconnected, even while staying busy all the time? Sometimes, it's not about doing more. It's about realizing what's been left unnourished. Body, mind, emotions, spirit, they all have their role. When one of these aspects is ignored for too long, the whole system starts to send signals that it needs attention. You can start applying this awareness in simple ways. Observe your day and see if you're nurturing each season of your being. Notice if your routine includes physical rest, meaningful emotional connections, inspiration that fuels your creativity and action, and moments of silence and reflection. This doesn't require radical change, just a new quality of presence in the little things. A quiet evening tea, a meaningful conversation, a transformative read, or even a conscious breathing pause. The key is realizing that we are not separate from what surrounds us. The same structure that sustains the cycle of seasons also sustains our inner process. And when you align with this natural movement, you no longer need to push so hard. Answers start to come more clearly, choices feel more aligned, and everything begins to flow with less resistance. Understanding the power of 4 is like finding a compass, not to control life, but to move through it with more awareness. And this understanding is just the beginning, because when you look closer, you'll see that this same code also shows up in science, and even in how our biology works. Even though science and spirituality may seem like different worlds, there are moments when they intersect in surprising ways. One of those intersections is the number 4. Modern science identifies 4 basic DNA bases, 4 states of matter, and 4 fundamental forces that sustain the physical universe. It may sound technical, but the pattern stands out. It invites us to see that the structure of life is more symbolic than we think. These 4 pillars of science also speak of balance and interaction. The DNA bases connect in complementary pairs, as if life were built on cooperation. The states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, and plasma, show how energy expresses itself in different forms, depending on its vibration level. All of this mirrors ancient teachings that speak of transformation, presence, and flow. It's not just biology, it's a language. In spirituality, the four elements, earth, water, fire, and air, are used to represent aspects of human nature and reality. Interestingly, these elements fit into scientific discoveries like pieces of the same puzzle. Fire can be seen as plasma. Water matches the liquid state. Air aligns with gas. Earth connects with the solid state. Is this a coincidence, or a reflection of an order that runs through everything? This is where the possibility of integration is born. Spirituality doesn't need to be an escape from the real world, and science doesn't need to deny the invisible. When we realize that both are describing the same reality using different languages, a new perception opens. You don't have to choose one side. You can integrate both and use that knowledge to better understand yourself and the world around you. If you look closely, you'll see that cycles of healing, learning, and even habit change also follow this pattern of four phases. First comes recognition, then emotional processing. Next, transformative action, and finally, expansion of consciousness. This cycle repeats in almost every inner growth process. And the more aware you are of it, the more autonomy you develop. When science starts to discover patterns that spirituality has honored for millennia, it feels like we're rediscovering something we never really forgot, just in a different language. This meeting point between reason and intuition may be a key to unlocking new levels of understanding, a kind of understanding that respects both what can be measured and what can only be felt. And what's most fascinating is that this bridge between the visible and invisible keeps revealing itself in even subtler areas. Because once you realize there are hidden codes even in your sleep cycles, mental states, and in time itself, what seemed simple gains a whole new dimension. Many people still believe time is a straight line, a beginning, a path, and an end. But if you look more closely, you'll notice life doesn't work that way. Everything around us moves in cycles. And once you truly understand that, you stop running against time and start moving with it. Nature offers clues all the time. The sleep cycle, for instance, isn't linear. It goes through specific and repetitive phases. The moon cycle, too. It grows, peaks, fades, and restarts. Even states of consciousness follow this motion, from awakening to introspection, from action to contemplation. Everything flows in curves, turns, spirals. And interestingly, this pattern shows up in our choices too. How many times have you found yourself in a situation that feels like something from your past? It's not blind repetition. It's a chance to integrate something you didn't understand before. It's as if life moves in spirals, not circles. And the more aware you are of this, the more you learn to take part in the cycle actively. Not as someone being dragged by circumstances, but as someone who sees the signs and makes more conscious decisions. That's why, when you feel like you're back at the same point, it might be worth asking, what is this moment trying to show me now? Maybe the challenge is inviting you to a new level of understanding. Maybe a moment of pause isn't a setback, but a preparation. When you see time as an ally instead of a tyrant, anxiety starts to lose its grip. In practice, living in sync with the cycles can be simple. You can start by noticing how your energy fluctuates throughout the day. Are there moments of clarity, others of introspection? Respecting that is biological intelligence. Working with your rhythm, not against it, is a powerful way to align action with intuition. It's not about getting there fast, but about being fully present in each phase. Instead of skipping steps, you start living them completely, and that creates consistency. Time stops being a problem and becomes a resource. A resource you learn to shape based on your state of consciousness. And it's exactly this consciousness that begins to expand when you recognize that everything, including you, operates in layers. Layers that connect to nature, to emotions, to thoughts, and to the body's sensations. As you tune into these layers, you realize your body holds a map, an internal system that mirrors this same cyclical intelligence. There's an ancient wisdom that says the human being is not made of just one body, but four. And when we look at it that way, a lot of things start to make sense. We have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body, each with its own function and language. The problem is, we were taught to take care of only one, and imbalance shows up exactly when we ignore the others. The physical body is the foundation, connected to the earth element. It deals with action, routine, food, and movement. It's the most tangible, but not always the most listened to. The emotional body, linked to water, requires a more subtle kind of attention. It shifts, flows, overflows, or dries out. When we suppress emotions for too long, this water becomes stagnant, and that directly impacts our vitality. The mental body is associated with fire. It burns ideas, builds interpretations, feeds beliefs. When it's out of balance, we get stuck in repetitive thoughts or become impulsive. The spiritual body, connected to air, is the space of connection and presence. It's the lightest, but also the most neglected. Often, just sitting in silence reveals that it's been there all along, observing. These four bodies don't work separately. They influence each other all the time. When the physical body is overwhelmed, the mind gets confused. When the mind is overloaded, emotions become unstable. And when emotions are blocked, the physical body reacts. That's why balance has to be holistic. It's not about removing parts, but about integrating them with more awareness and harmony. A simple way to stay in touch with these four layers is to do a quick self-check-in. How is your body today? Any tension, hunger, fatigue? What about your emotions? Are they being acknowledged or ignored? Is your mind focused or scattered? And your spirit? Have you allowed yourself any moment of silence, contemplation, or gratitude lately? This takes 5 minutes, but the impact is huge. As you start recognizing these bodies as complementary layers, you begin to treat them with more care. And what's interesting is that each body responds well when it's heard. The physical body asks for rest or movement. The emotional body needs space to express. The mental body wants focus and direction. And the spiritual body longs for connection with nature, with meditation, with art. When these four aspects start walking together, everything changes. You stop living in fragments and start living in integration. And it's exactly in this state of integration that the first signs of energetic alignment show up. Because it's not just about feeling good. It's about flowing better, with less resistance, with more harmony. And that's exactly when manifestation starts to take on a deeper meaning. A lot of people talk about manifestation like it's instant magic, but in practice, it happens through specific energy centers. These centers aren't separate from the body. On the contrary, they're deeply connected to it. And the four most important ones for this process are directly linked to nature's elements: root, heart, third eye, and crown. When these centers are in sync, manifestation becomes natural, almost inevitable. The root center, connected to earth, represents safety, presence, and stability. It's the foundation that supports all other intentions. If you're trying to create something but feel constant fear or lack of grounding, this base probably needs strengthening. Activities like walking barefoot in nature, exercising, or organizing your space help activate this center. The heart, linked to water, is the portal of emotion and surrender. It's where intentions gain depth, where desire connects to true feeling. It's not about wanting just anything. It's about feeling what truly matters. When you act with presence and compassion, you're using this center. Practices like gratitude, empathic listening, and emotional self-care help unlock it. The third eye, associated with fire, is where vision begins. It's the center of imagination, intuition, and creative clarity. Everything we manifest starts first as a mental image. If you can't clearly visualize or feel stuck in doubt, this center may be blocked. Guided meditations, visualization exercises, and creative writing are great ways to reactivate its flow. Finally, the crown center, linked to air, is where control dissolves. Here, you stop trying to force results and begin allowing universal intelligence to cooperate with you. This center doesn't activate through effort but through surrender. Silence, meditation, nature contemplation, or even conscious breathing help open this center. It reminds us that the universe doesn't respond to commands, but to alignment. These four centers form an energetic map for conscious manifestation. And the most important thing is this: when one of them is blocked, the whole process slows down. It's no use just visualizing if you don't feel what you want. It's no use feeling if you're not grounded. The secret lies in coherence between foundation, emotion, vision, and surrender. When those layers are aligned, what you seek begins to find you. So, manifestation stops being about constant effort and becomes a result of your internal state. You don't create by force, you align. And that alignment begins when you understand that your energy centers aren't symbolic. They're real, perceptible, and trainable. As you develop mastery over them, something deeper starts shifting in your mind, something that changes how you perceive, think, and feel reality. Few people realize that the brain works like a temple in constant activity, and inside it, there are four main rooms: the brainwave states, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Each of these frequencies represents a different level of consciousness with a specific function. What changes everything is when a person learns to navigate these states intentionally. That transforms the mind from reactive to creative. Beta is the most common state: alert, logical, problem-solving. It's where we spend most of the day, solving issues, answering messages, keeping up. But staying only in this mode is like running a motor non-stop. You produce, but also wear yourself out. So recognizing when to shift out of this state is a sign of emotional intelligence. Alpha appears when you relax, but remain aware. It shows up during a light walk, while listening to calm music, or when you close your eyes for a few minutes. In this state, the body slows down and the mind becomes more receptive. Ideas flow more easily, insights come effortlessly. Creating an environment that supports alpha, like reducing visual noise or listening to specific frequencies, is a great start. Theta runs deeper. Here, the rational mind starts to sleep and the subconscious opens. This is the state of dreams, hypnosis, and reprogramming. At this level, you can access old memories, hidden beliefs, and emotional patterns. Guided meditations focused on visualization, affirmations, or slow breathing before sleep are especially effective to reach theta with awareness. Delta is the most mysterious state. It's where the body enters deep regeneration, and consciousness seems to expand beyond the personal self. It's not common to stay aware in this state, but trained monks can. Delta is linked to healing, inner silence, and a deep connection to something greater. Having a good quality of sleep is the most direct way to accessing it frequently. The human mind was designed to shift between these states like changing gears. The problem is, many people get stuck in just one frequency, which creates imbalance. When you learn to recognize where you are and how to shift, it changes everything. You stop being a hostage of thoughts and start guiding your mental experience more calmly. Mastering these four states is a powerful and accessible skill, because the more you understand the language of your own mind, the more you realize there are internal codes shaping your reality. And as you unlock those codes, something even more freeing begins to emerge. The idea that time, energy, and even reality itself are much more flexible than they seem. The way we perceive time shapes almost everything in our experience. Since childhood, we're taught that time is something external, fixed, something that just passes. But as our awareness expands, we start to realize that time is much more of a mental construction than a universal law. It's an experience shaped by consciousness, influenced by our perception, attention, and emotional state. That means when you change your internal state, your perception of time changes with it. Moments of deep presence seem to last longer, while stressful periods go by in a flash. This reveals that psychological time is different from clock time, and the more present you are, the more flexible time becomes. This perception opens the door to something transformative. Time doesn't just happen to you, it responds to you. When you're present, focused, and connected to what you're doing, time gains weight, meaning. On the other hand, when you're distracted or on autopilot, everything seems to rush and fade. That simple shift in focus already starts to change your relationship with reality. In this process, attention proves to be as valuable as time, maybe even more. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And what you feed with energy grows. That's why repeating negative mental patterns, even subtle ones, is often what blocks real change. Sometimes it's not that life is hard, it's that your focus is misaligned. There's also an often overlooked point. The way we see the world isn't objective. Everything we perceive first goes through our consciousness, and only then is interpreted as reality. That means what you experience is filtered through beliefs, emotions, expectations, and memories. So if all that you see is interpretation, changing your inner world deeply alters how you experience the outer one. This understanding leads to another key point. External systems only gain power when you give yours away to them. Imposed ideas about scarce time, limited success, or constant competition only keep working as long as you believe in them. It's not about denial, it's about questioning. You can live in the world without being shaped by everything it dictates. When this perception expands, you begin to realize that you're not stuck in the structure you were taught. You can create new rhythms, new choices, new interpretations, and this doesn't require a dramatic break. It requires gradual awareness. It starts by observing where your attention is today, what you've been feeding with your energy, and how you've been interpreting the events in your life. Small focus shifts can lead to major transformations. Over time, or rather, as your perception of time shifts, you discover that you don't need to control everything. What you really need is to align with what's already happening inside you. And it's right there in the space between perception, energy, and action that a real opening to a freer life appears. And that freedom becomes even more real when you stop just understanding and start living what you've understood. Knowing is not enough. That's something many people forget on the path of self-discovery. It's easy to collect concepts, watch videos, understand mechanisms, but if it doesn't translate into action, nothing really changes. Knowledge has to leave theory and become practice, because transformation comes from lived experience, not just information. A lot of people wake up to certain patterns, understand their cycles, recognize their blocks, but keep repeating the same behaviors. Not because they lack willpower, but because there hasn't yet been a real activation. Activation means moving from a new internal space. It's when consciousness stops being just an observer and becomes the guide behind your choices. This activation begins with small, conscious acts. If you realized you're always putting others first and burning yourself out, the practice begins by saying no with more presence. If you've understood that your focus creates reality, The next step is choosing more carefully where you place your attention. It's not about revolutionizing everything at once. It's about bringing a new perspective to what you already do. And that's where alignment comes in. It's not enough to act from impulse or pressure. What you do needs to align with what you feel, think, and believe. When there's coherence between intention, emotion, and behavior, things flow with less resistance. It's not perfection you're after, it's coherence. Coherence is what turns ordinary actions into powerful movements. Sometimes, it's just about changing your posture, doing the same activity, working, studying, talking, but now with a different presence, with more attention, more listening, more awareness of the now. That kind of active presence begins to transform even your simplest routines, because it's not what you do, it's the state you're in when you do it that shapes the energy you send out. Another key point is consistency. You can't practice something once and expect a miracle. Activation involves repetition, consistency, and most of all, honesty with what's working and what's not. Meditation, conscious breathing, journaling, physical movement, personal rituals. Any practice can work, as long as it aligns with what you genuinely need at this stage of your journey. And when you start living that alignment day by day, something powerful begins to happen. Reality starts responding differently. Synchronicities increase. Obstacles make more sense, and your sense of purpose grows stronger. That's when you stop being just a spectator of the code and begin to live it from the inside out, not as someone trying to control everything, but as someone who's learned to move with life. No transformation begins from the outside in. It always starts with a new way of seeing. And once that happens, the journey doesn't stop. It only goes deeper. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me. If this video resonated with you, I invite you to like and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with others so they can benefit from this message. And don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, reflections, and experiences. Thanks again for watching and for joining me. Take care and see you soon.